The biggest arrival on the Aussie motoring calendar this year is Ford's reimagined Ranger Raptor. And it's finally launched, promising twice the power and much more fun factor than its diesel predecessor. But I've got some bad news, because it might not be the Raptor that you really want. I've just driven this, the utterly bonkers Bronco Raptor. So here are my top 5 reasons why I think the Bronco rules the Raptor roost, and let's start with, well, just look at it. After a 25-year hiatus, the 6th gen Bronco really pulls the retro modern heartstrings when it launched here last year. And the new Raptor version pumps the retro modern concept with enough go fast, go anywhere steroids, you'd wonder how it could ever be street legal. It's a massive 25 centimeters wider than the regular Bronco thanks to these wheel arches made from a material called sheet molding compound, or SMC, and the same stuff is used for the clamshell on the bonnet. It's so wide, in fact, the US regulations mandate that it fits 3 orange lights above the grille, which handily matches the driving lights. It gets unique front and rear guards, LED headlights, a specific front bumper, and a Ford block letter grille. Plus, this version gets a silver bash guard, snatch points, and these hooks that help you sight the front end when you're behind the wheel. Then of course there's the rolling stock, and look how massive these are. You get 17-inch beadlock rims fitted with 37-inch BF Goodrich tyres, which are the largest tyre size you can get fitted OE on an SUV. The Bronco Raptor looks like it could flatten Mother Earth's worst terrain standing still, which brings us to highlight number 2. Looks tough, is tough. Bronco is underpinned by a version of the T6 body-on-frame platform used in Ranger, one that's engineered by Ford Australia. So in a sense, at its core, it's part Aussie. But the Raptor version has 50% more torsional stiffness than the regular Bronco thanks to a whole bunch of bracing. It's also 218mm wider in track thanks to specific Ford Performance control arms. Static ride height is a neat 1/3 of a metre, and thanks to a decoupling front anti-roll bar, front articulation is 330mm, which we're not even teasing here, and the rear is a whopping 360mm. The big news for Aussie Ranger Raptor Ute, of course, is that it's swapped its diesel for a measurably more powerful and fitting 3-litre twin-turbocharged petrol V6. And Bronco Raptor fits the same EcoBoost engine, albeit with a bit more stonk. The Manic SUV plies 312 kilowatts and 597 newton meters. That's 20 kilowatts and 14 newton meters more than its Raptor Ute cousin in Aussie tune, and it's paired to a 10-speed automatic. The Bronco Raptor fits toughened Dana Advantech axle gear front and rear with electronic locking diff centers, and drive shafts and half shafts that are oversized. Other hardcore off-road tricks include an upgraded transfer case that offers up to a 67.7:1 crawl ratio. This allows what's called trail one-pedal drive mode for accurate throttle control at super low speeds. It also fits what Ford calls HOS, or High Performance Off-Road Stability Suspension. It uses live valve technology with Fox-developed semi-active damping, with internal reservoirs up front and remote reservoirs in the rear, and they're powder-coated orange for your viewing pleasure. Various environment and suspension height sensors allows the system to vary damping up to 100 times per second. All that good stuff pays a penalty at the weighbridge, because the big Bronco clocks in at a whopping 2.6 tonnes. The drive selector offers 4 on-road and 3 dedicated off-road modes in a similar format to Ranger Raptor. Cycling through accesses a vast array of presets that tweak powertrain, traction, suspension, steering, and diff lock combinations for everything from on-road performance and towing to high-speed Baja action and low-speed rock crawling. Don't like the presets? Well, you can change individual functions to suit your whims. That the Bronco Raptor is quick off-road is unsurprising. That it's so much fun, engaging, and downright chuckable in the face of its curb weight is, however, almost hard to believe. Find a loose gravel track with almost flat running, and it's an absolute hoot when you turn the ESP off, lock the rear differential, and keep it in rear-wheel drive. Thus set, it reacts just like an old-school rally car, loose in the tail, but with an uncanny degree of accuracy at the helm. Thanks to the grip of the chunky rubber, it can really dance about with an accuracy and obediency of a machine half its weight. In high 4 mode, the added traction brings brisker point-to-point pace, but its character remains lean and responsive, with a real enthusiasm to change direction quickly and accurately. This is ideal for more open landscape, where its harder core bar-hard drive mode introduces rally-style anti-lag for the turbocharger system to keep the V6 constantly on the boil. Even flat out with Larry road speed, the tricky chassis returns an almost sublimely cooperative character. In particular, the disciplined wheel control the suspension offers allows consistent tyre grip the whole time, and it's a real highlight. At proper pace, the Bronco Raptor is neither overly Larry or excessively idiot-proof. It offers huge thrills if underpinned with a cooperative nature that allows even modestly skilled drivers to tap well into its lofty fun factor. And that's great when the heat is on, but what is the mighty Ford like when you dial it back and treat it like a family cruiser? What's super impressive is just how smooth and refined it is for the type of vehicle. In fact, the whole car is impressively slick and there's absolutely nothing agricultural about it. The throttle response is really clean and there's plenty of oomph in the mid-range, but on balance, it's more measured than it is manic. But kick it in the slats and that mid-range torque comes thick and fast. Dial it back and modulate the throttle and you can hear the turbocharged wheeze as they modulate on and off the throttle. The 10-speed auto is a real gem. Its upshifts are clean and it's slick and it's very intuitive to your driving style. And the auto always seems to pluck ratios that bring the best out of the Turbo 6 without being too hyperactive. If anything, the active exhaust is letting the team down. It's a little too polite, going from extremely muted to a nice rumbly thrum. But what it really lacks is mustering up a full-blown roar in attack mode. That's not to say that performance is shabby, because it feels like a genuine old school 400 horsepower on the march. In terms of drive modes, you can select between 2 high and 4 high, 4 low, and a 4 automatic system. The 4 auto is handy because it sorts out all the traction itself, easily accessible at a twist of a dial. But what's a real surprise for a vehicle of this type is just how modern and slick the holistic driving experience is. In terms of polish, the Bronco Raptor makes its key rival in the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon feel, well, completely antiquated. But get it up to speed, say 110 kilometers an hour on a highway like we are at the moment, and I've got to say, the wind noise starts to get pretty oppressive. That's not so surprising because the Bronco Raptor is really about as aerodynamic as an apartment block. This in part affects fuel economy, and the Bronco Raptor is pretty thirsty. Even out on the open road on cruise control, it barely dips below 14 litres per 100. The ride is on balance quite excellent, and sure, around town it's a little bit choppy, but out on the open road and carrying speed, those tricky dampers do absolute wonders for compliance, and it doesn't matter if you're on hot mix or off-road. Handling too is pretty impressive, particularly stability, so you can dial it up to 130, which is legal here in the US, and it remains absolutely rock solid. Body control too, when you hook it in a corner, is quite excellent, particularly for something sat this high on these kinds of tyres. The steering too has uncanny accuracy and fluidity, which is really a huge surprise. In a nutshell, the driving experience is less like a ute with a wagon body plonked on top of it, and more like you would expect from, I don't know, a Mercedes AMG G-Wagon or a sporty European SUV. At 2 tons brake towing, it's pretty decent, but it's nothing like a Land Cruiser. Then again, you're not really gonna use this to tow a caravan across the Nullarbor. But given the fitness for purpose we're talking about here, you're gonna pick the kind of tracks that you really don't want to be towing caravans on anyway. While the Bronco Raptor promises more all-terrain fun than its Ranger Raptor sibling, it does what dual cabs can't: offer a proper family hauling experience. What Ford managed to pull off impressively well in the cabin is blending a hardcore mud-kicking vibe with lots of modern luxury. And the result doesn't feel like a dog's breakfast. From the bluff dash and the upright windshield to the hunkered down seating, it couldn't feel more different than the Ranger in here. The seats are fantastic in here. They're relaxed in shape and very supportive. In fact, I've clocked up over 1,000 kilometers in this particular example, and I've got to say, the long haul comfort is outstanding. Standard trim is marine grade vinyl, and it's easy to clean and hard wearing after a hard day at the trail. Other cool highlights include these incredibly neat pistol grips, these elasticized door bins, and this nice rubberized shielding on a lot of the controls that keeps out dust and water when the conditions get dirty. You can also fairly easily remove the roof and the doors if you want a bit more exposure to the environment. Doing that exposes this massive roll cage, which gives you ample rollover protection in case you need it. But it's not all simply utilitarian. The digital driver screen and massive 12-inch multimedia touchscreen are both razor sharp and very bright, which is handy for viewing in direct sunlight once you've jettisoned the roof. It's a Sync 4 system with swipe and zoom, satellite radio for here in the US, and wireless Apple CarPlay. You get both USB A and C ports, but no inductive charging, as that's an optional extra not fitted here. Dual zone climate control, a fantastic 360-degree camera system, and seat heating are all par for the Raptor course. Up here are a bunch of switches for trail control and trail turn assist functionality, as well as decoupling the front stabilizer bar and front and rear diff locking. While strangely enough, the window switches are located down here. All Raptors are 4-door versions of the Bronco, rather than the shorty 2-door version that's offered further down the range. And given its massive size, it's unsurprising that there's plenty of room back here. The seats are surprisingly comfy, and there's plenty of room across the back here for 3 adults. At the back of the rear console, you get switches for the windows, USB A and C ports, and a 3-pin 400-watt AC outlet, though there are no rear air vents. And lastly, and importantly, let's check out the boot. Out back, you get a neat split access, so you can open the barn door, which is really easy for loading in luggage. The boot itself is actually quite massive, 2,350 litres converted to a 2-seater. Not to steal thunder from Ford's shiny new high-performance ute, but for my money, the blue oval doesn't offer anything else that's quite as multi-talented as the Bronco Raptor. And nothing else that can quite match the practicality mixed with sheer charisma and fun factor. All for $68,500 before on-roads, and that's US dollars, and of course, there's the catch. And despite the Aussie DNA, and despite the fact that it shares many key oily bits with Ranger Raptor, the mightiest Bronco remains left hook only. Come on Ford, just put the steering wheel on the right side. So that's what I think, but how about you? Put your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching Chasing Cars.